Yesterday, we talked about how when I was ready to go to college, I had to get uncle's friend to co-sign my loan because my parents' credit was so bad and they couldn't take on another loan. So I was panicked. I was like, there's no way someone's gonna have to do this. So in this episode, we talk about how I made sure to pay off that loan, 60K worth of debt in under 18 months, and then my next steps from there. As I mentioned in the previous post, I understood compounding interest and I was like, there is no way that I'm going to have this happen. And again, compounding interest is like a snowball, just rolling downhill. Every month you don't pay your interest off, you're just collecting more and more and more snow. And the next thing you know, you're like, oh my gosh, what is this huge ass ball coming towards me? Working throughout my 5-year program, I think there were several hacks in there. One, I was working throughout my time. I was going to work regardless because I just needed money for school. And like I said, by the end of my 5 years, I want to say maximum I was paying like 200, 250. It wasn't enough for me to be like, oh my gosh, like I'm stressed out doing this, but it definitely made an impact because, like I said, when I graduated, I only had my principal left and I was able to pay that off in 18 months with the job that I got and the different strategies I did. But I also want to point out that when I was in school, I did a 5-year program. And I think the benefit of this is that I got my master's right after undergrad and I was already an RA on campus. I already knew Boston. I already knew everything. So I wasn't having additional cost of having to go to a new college and having to figure out their financial aid system and do this and do this and do that. Like it was literally year 5 of college in terms of like all the finances, which was really, really good because I do feel like if I had obviously taken the traditional route. So just consider if you're going to school and what that looks like as well in terms of paying for that. I also want to note when I was in college, I started using this app. I think it was Mint. I wanted to know it was in Mint. There was an app, well, I did use Mints to track my stuff, but also there was this app where it would round up your money. So every time you use your debit card, it would round up the amount of money that you so if it was like $1.90, it would put 10 cents in the savings. And then I think it was called Digit. I think that's what it was called. So by the end of the week, the month, I don't know what it was, you would see all the extras that were saved. And it usually would be substantial. It'd be like, I don't know, like 50, 100, 150, depending on what I was doing that month. So that also taught me very early on that like small things matter and you can do small things to gain money. So that was really, really cool. And then another lesson that I was like learning, and I talk about this more in my career coaching and career strategy in terms of like use everything you have to your advantage. And in this example, when I was in college, my senior year, I was VPDI, that is Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion for the student government. So even though everyone had their own budgets, or all the organizations I saw had their own budgets, there was also extra budget or like things that needed to be approved. So if you wanted to travel, if you hotel stay, conferences, all that stuff had to go through me. And then obviously I would submit that to the finance office. And one day finance was not able to get me the money in time or whatever, but obviously I needed to get things rolling. So I thought to myself, even though I've always had all these negative thoughts about credit cards, I've learned enough over the time in college to be like, maybe they're not the worst if I pay them off. So what I did was like, I ended up getting a credit card, my first, and I think, I thought I had it with me, but I still have that credit card to this day. My first credit card account, and it was a travel credit card account, which is also important. So if you want to travel and you're like, what's finances with traveling? Like right now I'm in Thailand. That's the reason why I'm even using that credit card because they take Visa and not Amex here for the most part. Anyway, so I got my first credit card and I put my organization's expenses on that credit card. And then I made sure to submit everything and the finance team reimbursed me. You're allowed to use your card and get reimbursed for stuff as long as obviously you're using it for the correct thing. So I started using my credit card to pay for things for the different organizations, and then I'll do the paperwork to get the reimbursement. And what this did is that it also taught me, how to read my credit card statements, how to make sure I was being on time with everything. It gave me a habit, but it didn't give me the pressure of my own money. I knew the money was going to come in and it was going to be fine. So what this did was that not only did it add to my credit score history because now I had a credit card. It was improving it because I was paying it off every month. I didn't have a balance over, and it was also teaching me. And I was getting points. So it was a win-win-win all around. And it was a huge lesson for me because, as I said in previous videos, my mom had a ton of credit card debt when we were growing up, and there's a lot of shame around it, and we didn't really talk about it in the house. It was just like, oh, I'm in this predicament because someone else used my card and they ran it, like it, but it was just so much shame around it. And I thought for the longest that credit cards were bad. I thought that only poor people used credit cards. I thought that if you use a credit card, that means you'd be in debt forever. And now I've learned that credit cards are everything. I don't use debit cards. I don't use cash. If someone doesn't have a credit card option, as far as I'm concerned, they don't want my money. So why do I love credit cards so much? Like, what changed my mind? Honestly, one, if you use a credit card, you're not using your money. You're using the bank's money. You're borrowing that money for a time being. Obviously, you should either have that money or know you're going to get that money to pay back in time. If I put something that costs $20 on my credit card today and my credit card statement closes in a week, in my brain, I know I have $20 to pay that off. Right? Because if not, that's when, if you remember from my earlier videos, we have compounding interest, and something that was $20, I don't know. I bought lunch today. It was maybe $16. If I put lunch on my credit card, $16 for food, that was good, but like, whatever. I don't pay off my credit card in 5 months. That $16 lunch now has become like $45. Questionable if it was even worth 16 in the first place. You know what I mean? So paying that off is really important. But if someone else uses your card for that $16 lunch and you realize that, you can call your bank and say, hey, I did not make these charges. And they will do an investigation and take that off. And they will work harder because, like I said, it's their money that they're lending to you and you're borrowing in this moment. So they want to get their money back or make things even, whatever the case might be. Because if maybe you're lying and it is you actually made the purchase and they want to make sure that you pay it. If it was the company's fault, they want to make sure the company reimburses you or they pay it. But also, if for whatever reason they can't resolve it, but they know it's not your fault, they want to make you whole, aka they'll take it off your card. Why? Because they understand that a happy customer is a long customer. They would rather have you longer. But either way, you don't pay most likely for that error, that fraud, that was happening. Versus a debit card, that money is being taken away right away. So if there was $16 in your bank account, someone takes out $16, that money is gone. And not only is it gone, it's your money. And the bank is not going to work as hard for your money as they work for their money. So that's one thing about credit cards. Two, you are able to rack up points. So there have been a number of times I've used my points to pay off my credit card. A lot of people use points to fly, to travel, to stay in hotels, to eat, to pay for gas. If you're using the card and you're paying it off, slowly but surely you will get these benefits, and you can start doing that too. And then last but not least, you're getting to build your credit score. So every time you make a payment and you're in good standing, that is your credit score going up. And we love that. So that was like my healing journey around credit cards. And I'm really, really great that I was able to realize that early and not later, because I would have lost so much money if I kept just depending on debit cards and I was afraid to build credit. And now, like, it's a whole different conversation to even talk about what it means to use credit cards and like building credit in that way. But we'll save that for another video. But tomorrow's video is my debt payoff journey, if you will. So as I mentioned earlier, I paid off the interest every single month that I was in college and grad school. And then when I graduated, I had about 63K worth of debt. And I knew I wanted to pay this off. So I ended up paying off in 18 months. I was really happy that I walked out of school with the same debt I walked in with and it wasn't compounded. But I knew for a fact that I did not want that number to start skyrocketing once I was in the real world. So I paid it off.